Hello students, good morning. And now I am going to deal the second part of Hearts and Hands by O. Henry. I hope you have gone through the first part of this chapter. So we learned that O. Henry's Hearts and Hand is a short story which describes the encounter of two acquaintances. Already I told you the meaning of acquaintances, Miss Fairchild and Mr. Stone. The story is set on a train to Denver, and you remember the name of the train? B&M Express. A very pretty young woman named Miss Fairchild is sitting in one coach. Meanwhile, two men enter the coach who are handcuffed to one another. Miss Fairchild greets one of them, who she must know well, and when she finds him bound at the wrist by shining bracelet refers to handcuffs, to his companion, her smile changes to that of bewilderment. I told you, terrified horror. The glum-faced man with the Eastern senses his embarrassment and gives an explanation. He interrupts that Easton is a marshal and he is taking him to Leavenworth prison. It's 7 years for counterfeiting. Students, let's begin from this paragraph. Oh, said the girl with a deep breath and returning color. So that is what you are doing out here, a marshal? When Miss Fairchild was told that Mr. Easton is the marshal and the other ruffled man is the convict, she feels relieved. It shows her innocence that she believes in whatever the glum-faced man tells her. So, on being told Mr. Easton was the marshal and the other man was the convict, Miss Fairchild's expression of horror changed to that of relief. She continued to speak to Mr. Easton as if he was a hero. My dear Miss Fairchild, said Easton calmly, I had to do something. Money has a way of taking wings unto itself, and you know it takes money to keep step with our crowd in Washington. I saw this opening in the West, and well, a marshalship isn't quite as high a position of that of ambassador. But, students, in this context, Easton actually wanted to state that to step up with the friends, rich friends in Washington, he had to do something. Here something is referred as a verbal irony. Mr. Easton didn't want Miss Fairchild to understand what the something truly was. Something refers to her way of money making by counterfeiting. So now money has a way of taking wings unto itself. In this particular line, it states that money never stays with a single person. It keeps on moving from one person to another. That makes it feel that it has grown some wings and is flying out of the hand with no control. So, Mr. Easton is referring that money goes too quickly and their lives in Washington were expensive. Students, underline this line. I saw this opening in the West, and well, a marshalship isn't quite as high her position as that of ambassador. But so in this particular line, Easton is trying to express that life in the West was expensive and required more money, and it seemed that Mr. Easton had taken an option of counterfeiting. To remove all the doubts about himself, he tells Miss Fairchild that he saw an opportunity to occupy a position of respect, so he took the job of a marshal. Then, in course of conversation, Easton reminded Miss Fairchild about an ambassador who might be in the past or in Washington. Miss Fairchild was inclined towards an ambassador. The ambassador, said the girl warmly, doesn't call anymore. So the moment Easton talked about an ambassador, Miss Fairchild reacted immediately with a warm reply that she was no longer in touch with the ambassador and she liked him more than she liked the ambassador. So here, students, we find that Miss Fairchild was a coquettish lady. She was a flirtatious lady. Here we will find one more aspect of her character. Then she was much more impressed with the heroic deeds that Easton was doing as a marshal. Miss Fairchild was impressed with his duties, with his acts, and called him dashing Western hero who ride and shoot and face all kinds of dangers. But with time, with intervals, her eyes always rested upon the glittering handcuffs. "Don't worry about them, miss," said the other man. Here, other man means the real marshal who lied to Miss Fairchild and presented himself as a convict. All marshals handcuff themselves to their prisoners to keep them from getting away. Mr. Easton knows his business. Here, Mr. Easton knows his business is also used as an irony. Before that, I would like to state that here business refers to the act of counterfeiting, but it is not directly said, it is an ironical expression. So, in this context, I would like to explain that Miss Fairchild was glaring at the handcuffs. Then the glum-faced man asked her not to worry, as it was Mr. Easton's business as a marshal to handcuff the convict to keep from getting away. Now, "Will we see you again soon in Washington?" asked the girl, means Miss Fairchild. "Not soon, I think," said Easton. "My butterfly days are over, I fear." Again, a verbal irony. My butterfly days are over, I fear. "Not soon, I think," said Easton. So here Easton was talking about that he would be imprisoned in Leavenworth prison on the charges of counterfeiting. And "my butterfly days are over" signifies that Easton's good and adventurous days of making money by deceiving people are over. Now he is not free as a butterfly. But Miss Fairchild thinks that Easton was referring to his social days and the duties that he has taken a job of a marshal and he would be very busy with his new job. "I love the West," said the girl irrelevantly. Her eyes were shining softly. She looked away out the car window. She began to speak truly and simply without the gloss of style and manner. "Mama and I spent the summer in Denver. She went home a week ago because father was slightly ill. I could leave and be happy in the West. I think the air here agrees with me. Money isn't everything, but people always misunderstand things and remain stupid." "I love the West," said the girl. Here we can find that Miss Fairchild was flirting with Easton and she, in a casual manner, she was actually directly or indirectly, she was conveying her message that she was ready to lead her life with Easton in the West. One more aspect of Miss Fairchild's character we get here when it is said, "Mama and I spent the summer in Denver. She went home back," means mother. Her mother went home back a week ago because father was slightly ill. So here we can see that Miss Fairchild had a fair name and face, but her heart was not so fair. When her father was ill, she did not go home to take care of him. She continued her journey despite knowing of her father's illness. So Miss Fairchild was a self-centered woman. Then, money isn't everything. This is again a verbal irony. It is ironic because she herself had not understood that Mr. Stone was criminal. She had been fascinated by the appearances. She kept on talking about him as if he was a hero. Money isn't everything is also ironic since it is the desire for money that is responsible for Mr. Stone's unpleasant situation. Say, Mr. Marshall, growled and glum-faced man, this isn't quite fair. I'm needing a drink and haven't had a smoke all day. Haven't you talked long enough? Take me in the smoker now. Won't you? I am half dead for a pipe. I am a half dead for a pipe is a type of hyperbole, figure of speech. When the marshal felt that the conversation was going too long and to do something to cut short the conversation between Stone and Miss Fairchild, the glum-faced man, the real marshal, interrupted the conversation between them and requested Stone that he should be taken to the smoker room to prevent Mr. Stone from revealing that he is a convict. The glum-faced fellow did so. We can assume this through his act, through his deeds, what he did in between by interrupting the conversation. Students, I hope you have understood up to I am half dead for a pipe. Please read these paragraphs, go through these paragraphs properly, and I shall return with my next video and I shall complete the chapter. Thank you.